What's cracking, spectators? January is officially over, so how are those 2022 Comic Grail goals coming along? Don't forget to keep us posted if you land one of your grails for the year. This week, Jesus and I are telling a grail journey of our own that took us about half of 2021 to accomplish. That story, of course, is the tale of our Journey into Mystery annual number ones. That's right, the long-anticipated Jima episode. So cover yourself in honey and fill your pants with salmon. This is episode 29.
This is a conspiracy. That's what this is.
Just begging to course its way through your veins.
Let's just for a moment speculate, shall we?
You're into comic books, aren't you?
I'm a nerd.
But you do like comic books.
Comic books aren't just for sad nerds anymore.
Do you think we need one more?
Strange things are afoot at the Circle K.
Do you think we need one more?
Objection, calls for speculation, move to strike.
This is a bad idea. This is a bad idea.
All right, we'll get one more.
Spectators, a comic book podcast with Jake and Jesus.
Hello and welcome back, all you spectators, and thank you for tuning in to the latest episode of Spectales. If you're new to the show, we appreciate you checking us out. This is a comic book podcast where we ask collectors and creators the thirst-inducing question, what's your grail tale? Each week, we explore news stories about comic book grails we love, the epic journeys behind how they were obtained, and how they inspired new creativity. We also dive into some comic book speculation and how, as collectors, we can help the hobby pay for itself. I am your Face for Radio host, Jake, along with my award-worthy beard co-host, Jesus. Jesus, what's cracking?
The bearded, award-winning, super charming. Please don't leave my accolades out, okay? I've worked hard on them.
I was just saying that the beard you have is award-worthy. I wasn't necessarily... I don't know all of the accolades. And if you have won an award with that beard, I apologize. You should really hang it from the beard.
You weren't at the Sparse Army Awards for 2021? You weren't there? Oh, we didn't invite you. That's right.
Yeah, no, I don't get invited to that stuff. Did you just knock over half your desk?
Yes. The Sparse Army doesn't play around, Jake. We mean business. We mean business.
You get too excited when you talk about the Sparse Army. I need you to dial it back just a little bit.
That's impossible.
That said, I like the enthusiasm coming into this episode. We're coming in hot. Holy cow.
You know what, man? I'm really excited about this episode. I really am. That's why I have so much energy for it. I don't even know where to put this book now that it failed. Thank you, Jake. I blame that on you.
I'll take the blame for it, but I just need you to get your shit together. Can we do that? Can you just get your poop in a group right now? Because we've got
it on the bag. Put it on a bag and just get your shit together. And that's what we're gonna do.
All right, but what we're talking about today, let's go into what we're talking about. So we have a special guest that we're going to bring in a moment, but we are going to be finally coming back to the Jima episode. We teased this episode in early August. It was like our second or third episode. I want to say it was our third episode because the second episode we had Chris on. So let's say this was our episode number 3. We teased the Jima episode. Journey into Mystery annual number 1 for those not fluent. And we have been speculating on this book literally since last July. And Jesus and I decided to both go in on the book, not together, right? Like we have our own books, but we both decided to embark on a journey that involved Journey into Mystery annual number 1. We said back then we were going to get some books, we were going to get them graded, and we would come back and tell you the tale. And holy crap. What a tale. Like, seriously. I mean, lions, tigers, and bears. Like, everything is involved in this story.
You know,
and it's ridiculous.
Yeah, in the best kind of way, right? Like, we've been teasing this for that long because as it was happening, as it was unfolding, we're like, man, there's no way it can get crazier. And then something crazier happened. And then something topped that. And then it just kept going. So we're like, man, and, you know, this is also... to show, the spectators and maybe some newer people into it, or maybe some people, some comic fans or comic, community that don't do what we do. It's kind of an insight into it because of how long it's taken. I mean, you said this is from July, and we were talking about it at the beginning of July, I believe, and we were coming to kind of like a consensus on what we felt, because this is when we're coming up with our warm blanket takes. Journey to Mystery Annual 1 is not only the first appearance of Hercules, it's also the first appearance of Zeus. And as we know, Zeus has already been cast. We know he's cast. We know he's coming.
And not
So
just
it's
cast,
also-
Russell Crowe, a huge casting. This is not a small actor or a bit role. I mean, I imagine it's not a huge, massive leading role, but it's Zeus. I mean, it's Russell Crowe. It's Maximus.
And so that's what I'm saying. Like, and again, for those that maybe don't know, it's a warm blanket, which means that we know this character is coming to the MCU. We know they are. So just wanted to say that about the book and how long it's been going on, this Jima journey, man. I'm really excited to finally be able to share with everybody what it is.
Me too. And that leads me to introducing our guest. To properly tell the Jima story, we really need to bring in our faithful presser. We affectionately call him Taco. You can call him Brian if you want. Taco, welcome to the show.
What's up? Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's our pleasure. We appreciate you coming on, and we appreciate all that you've done for our books. You make them much more presentable, but we'll get into that in a little bit. That said, those of you who are regular listeners, you will recognize Taco's voice as he was a guest on the giant size New Year's special we did at the beginning of the month. If you haven't listened to it, that's a really fun episode. Lots of laughs. We had 6 different guests coming in and out, flying, and it was moving 90 miles an hour. It was a lot of fun. So go back and listen to that if you missed out. But for this episode, we could not tell the tale without you, Taco. We had to bring you on. So I don't know. What do you have to say for yourself?
It's all right.
All right.
Man, he's being modest.
I feel like my whole life has been leading up to this moment.
Everybody's does, really, before they get on this show. That's okay. So now that we've gone through that, I would like to say a couple of things. So we do 3 segments on the show. We always start off with recent pickups. Then we go into a Grail Tale. In this case, it's going to be the Jima Grail Tale. And then we will close out with speculation. So we'll go around the horn. Everybody will throw out some spec. And then we all finish up. So let's jump right into recent pickups. And Jesus and I are actually going to do kind of a joint recent pickup on this one. It's kind of a unique situation. However, because he normally goes first, I don't really want to go first. I always go last. So I'm going to give Jesus a pass on going first this time. And I'm going to go straight to you, Taco.
Oh.
What do you got?
Oh, okay. Well, I recently picked up a book that I've been eyeballing for a while. It's pretty much just a cover purchase, really. It's Batman 423. I'll show it to you guys.
Oh, the McFarlane.
Viewers at home or listeners at home can't see it, but it's the iconic Todd McFarlane Batman cover.
I love the color play on it with the red and the yellow and the black. It's all it's awesome.
It's a great cover. Beautiful cover. I love his signature. How he has his McFarlane right in the little bat logo.
Hey, actually, is it T. McFarlane or does he sign the whole thing, Todd?
No, just
McFarlane.
Just McFarlane.
Yeah, where is it? It just says McFarlane. Yeah, and the little bat logo.
Yeah, he may have done his signatures when he, just signing the artwork. I noticed that when he, it's kind of a side note, but for Todd McFarlane autographs, signatures, there are 2 versions. There's T. McFarlane and Todd McFarlane. And I've actually seen the ones with Todd McFarlane selling for more than the ones that are signed T. McFarlane, which is incredible.
Is it true that he knows which one to sign? Like, when I did this copy, I was Todd McFarlane, and then when I did this one, I was T. McFarlane. Is that how that goes?
I don't think that's how that goes at all. I guess I can't be sure. I've never met Mr. McFarlane, but I assume that it's more of a, sometimes like he probably signs 1,000 books at a time and his hand gets a little tired. So he says, all right, we're shortening it to T.
And it's his signature is almost an art form itself, the way he does it. So I'm sure after signing for an hour, he gets pretty tired.
And Taco, on that book, man, there's several printings, right? Like there's a second printing and there's
Yeah.
a so it has a Canadian print. The second printing says DC Comics aren't just for kids in the UPC box.
Is there a newsstand also?
Yes, there's but I think it's only the Canadian price variant for the newsstand. And then there's also a third printing, but there's no way to differentiate between the second and third printing except for checking on the interior of the page. The interior,
wow.
yeah. So yeah, that's why that's a hot book. It's a cool cover. It's Todd McFarlane, but there's also some different variants out there, second printings and third printing, to be careful and to look out
Yeah,
for.
I'm assuming this one's first print because it doesn't say.
Yeah, it has the Batman. It has a Batman logo in the corner.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for sharing. Jesus and I could move into. So our recent pickups is actually going to be. We had something kind of cool and very new for us happen recently, and we wanted to highlight that. So, Spectales, the show, received an AOK from one of our listeners, and not just any AOK, but 4 books that are all actually very, very cool, collectible books. Some of them are pretty hot, and we wanted to, one, shout out who gave it to us because we are incredibly grateful. We received the books from one of our listeners, Matt, also known as Abbotsford_comic_fan. So Abbotsford comic fan. And he was actually the subject matter of episode 15, which was our pre-code horror comic Grail Tale. It was a listener submitted Grail Tale. It's actually a really, really good story. I highly recommend if you want to hear a good story about kind of twists and turns, all about getting a book from the United States into Canada, and all that comes with chasing down a pre-code horror book. Episode 15 has it for you. That said, Matt was very, he really was thankful and appreciative of the show that we were putting together and the giant size episode where we did a giveaway. We did a giant size giveaway. And when we did that and announced it and gave away the books, he came back and said, "Hey, I want to give you guys a bunch of books so that you can give them away." And we were like kind of blown away. I was like, "I'm sorry, what? You want to do what now?" And Jesus was the same thing. Like, I'm sorry, he wants to do what? Yeah. So it was shocking to say the least that somebody just wanted to mail us some, quality comics.
Yeah. Well, I think, one of the things too, AOK, act of kindness, right? And although it's new for us, like happening for us here on our little show that we have in our little community that we're fostering, it's not something that is rare within the comic book community. I mean, it happens a lot, which is great. We have a great community. And then just like Jake said, we were already like, I was already like, what, why, like, what, why, like what's going on? And then
what did we do?
And then when he showed the books, I was like even more confused and more shocked. And I was like, okay, well, that's pretty awesome, man. We're gonna have to do something with this. But yeah, man, it's pretty awesome from Matt. And like you said, go back and listen to his Grail Tale because I still think it's a great one as well.
That was a good episode.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this story. So that said, let's go ahead and let's talk about the books for a moment and just go into what we received. And then maybe we'll talk a little bit about what we're going to do about it. So starting with the first book is a very nice copy of X-Men 4. This is the volume 2. So this is the first Omega Red.
Nice.
And I mean, it's one of my favorite covers. Me personally, I love this book. I have a 9.8 in it. 9.8
classic Jubilee.
Yeah, 9.8 newsstand for white pages for those keeping score. And it's one of my favorite covers. I'll never get rid of it. So the fact that he gave us a really nice looking copy of that, I was ecstatic, of course, because it's one of my favorite books. Then not to be outdone, Stray Dogs #1, the Silence of the Lambs variant cover. So again, another near mint copy, really clean, really nice. It's a really hot book. I mean, that cover, especially that #1 variant, super hot book. Done by our pal Tony Fleece, who was on the episode or who was on our show. I don't have the episode number off the top of my head, but he was on here.
Well, you know he was on here, right?
Yeah. Fantastic Four 272, which is the first cameo appearance of Nathaniel Richards, and Nathaniel Richards being at least a version of Kang. This is another hot book. This is a clean copy, great looking copy of the book. Really, again, another one of those things where I was like, "Holy cow! He just gave us this." So, and then the big one, I guess, is what we would call it. We got it's a CGC slabbed 9.4 white page copy of all new, all different Avengers #1, the 1 in 100 Alex Ross variant.
Wow.
And it's an homage variant, right?
It's an homage variant. Yep. It's an homage to the first Avengers book. So it's got a classic cover on it. It's really cool. And again, just sending us a slab just because he wanted to be nice to the show. Like I don't know. Like AOKs are really cool, and I know that they're prevalent within the comic community, but just for the show to get, like, in my opinion, very valuable AOKs, just a box full of them, I'm still kind of blown away.
Tell you, Matt's setting the bar pretty high for the rest of us listeners.
I guess so. I mean, Matt is really charging, leading the way here, and that gets us to our point. You could be Matt. No,
man. I mean, we wouldn't. This is just all. I just amazing, man. Just thank you. Just want to say thank you to Matt. Really, really appreciate it, and we're gonna do the best we can with them.
Yeah. That actually brings me to kind of my next point, or where I'd like to be, or where I wanted to take this conversation. This AOK, that what Matt has done really has inspired Jesus and I to kind of come to the whiteboard, the drawing board, and come up with a creative way for us to utilize these AOKs and to put them back into the community. And it's not just inspiring us to just do like a singular giveaway and just, give them out, because that is a good idea. And we do want to give these books out to the community, but how can we maximize what we're doing? And so we've been trying to come up with some good ideas. We are not going to be announcing what they are right now, but please continue to stay tuned. We hope to be announcing more of that, more of what we are going to be doing to give back to the community in the upcoming episodes. So we just kind of wanted to tease a little bit, and we wanted to say that, Matt, thank you so much. You are an inspiration for us as, not just a listener, but really just in our communications, becoming a good friend. We appreciate you, and you are driving us to be better for the listeners and for the community. So that said, stay tuned for more on that in the future. All right, moving on to the Grail Tale. I think that it really deserves the full Grail Tale experience. That said, I'd like to break it down and first discuss total, back in July. I mean, we didn't get all these books all at once, but let's say just how many Jimas are we dealing with here?
Okay. So I, on my part, had 3 Jimas that eventually turned into 1.5 Jimas. So that should be interesting in itself. So how about you, Jake? How many did you have?
If we are including, which we should, my keeper, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 Jimas are coming from my side of things. I will admit I went a little overboard, but
what did your keeper get?
Well, the keeper I bought already slabbed.
Okay.
So that was,
that's right.
That was a part of a. I believe it was a trade. To be honest, I got to go back through some of my notes to see what that one was. I think I traded to help get it.
He's traded for 2 of those.
I believe there are 2 Gma trades, 2 trades to get Gmas. So
7.0.
The highest grade on the table, higher than anything Jesus has, is a 7.0 white pages.
Nice.
And even with that, mine is still better, and for one reason only. But we'll talk about that right now. So, okay. So, where do we start? So we started, and we talked a little bit about this at the beginning. But initially, when we started, when we started the show, it was August, right?
Last week of July, but yeah, might as well have been August.
Okay, so right in July, at the beginning of July, you and I were having conversations over the phone. We were talking about, how we do our specking and how we do our, getting the hobby to pay for itself. And then we both really liked this spec book, this warm blanket book at the same time, which was Journey into Mystery Annual #1. I think there was only one of them, right? It changed into Thor Annual after this. It's a Silver Age book. It's a square bound book. It's very difficult to get in high grade. So all of this stuff led us to say that this is a book that and that we need to be specking on. And one of the reasons too was because he's a hero, and some of the heroes at the time were retiring or being retired in the MCU, like Captain America. Thor's out in space somewhere. We don't know what's going on. He's going to be passing the mantle, and so we just figured that there needed to be some new blood brought in, and Hercules made perfect sense to us. I mean, am I saying that correctly, Jake? That's kind of what the conversation was.
I agree with that, and ultimately Hercules is a major contributor to the Avengers, right? Along, in the long history of the Avengers, early on in the Silver Age, Hercules was a major factor, and in through the 70s or the Bronze Age. And so Hercules has always been present, and he's kind of been somebody at one point, I can't remember who it was, who described him as like the bro version of Thor.
The bro version of Thor. I forgot. Who was that?
I can't remember either. I apologize. I know somebody said it. So he's like the bro version of Thor, but that's kind of something that they're going to be missing if they end up really eliminating Thor or cutting back on Banner, or I don't know. But they kind of just need that meat in there somewhere. So
yeah.
Well, they're also bringing in Amadeus Cho.
Amadeus Cho is a character that we've highlighted as well, and that's certainly one that we find interesting. I guess. Well,
him and Thor were in a series together. They were good friends in a couple series together.
The Amadeus Cho and Thor.
Yeah, they were together in I believe one of the maybe Hercules or.
Actually, it's Hercules and Amadeus Cho that are friends, right?
Yeah, that's what I just said.
You said Thor.
You said Thor.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Did I? Just edit that out. Yeah.
I can't do that. I have to tell the people the truth.
I meant Hercules and Amadeus Cho. Yes.
Yes.
All right. Yeah, I agree. And so I think there's a lot pointing towards why Hercules is a good spec. I don't necessarily know how much we need to rehash that. The book has already started kind of moving a little bit in that direction. But that said, so we decided to go all in. And I think just to keep this Grail Tale moving, so we know how many books there were, let's kind of just real quick categorize. Let's see. I believe of the 4 other books, I found 3 on eBay, I believe. Okay. And 1 I found on Instagram. So I got Jesus and I bought 2 books from the same seller. There was a seller that actually posted 2 Journey into Mystery Annual #1s on eBay. And he and I, they were both or best offer. And I said, I'm going to go after this one. And I got a deal. And Jesus went after the other book, the one that I liked less, I guess. Went after the other book, and you offered even less money than I offered, and you got that deal.
Yeah, and I mean it made sense. I mean it makes sense even now looking at it. I mean it was the lesser of the two copies, right? And then having all the data in, which is he was amenable to taking offers. Why would I pay the same price that someone else just paid for a better copy of the book? So I offered less. Obviously, you guys know sometimes I like to lowball people and kind of see what they do, and this one was accepted. So you kind of want to talk about the timing on these because I can tell you when I bought this book, the
Oh,
day,
good.
the
Yeah, go
exact
ahead.
day.
Yeah.
So this book, if we're talking about the dates, this book that I bought from the same seller that Jake bought within a few days, from eBay, I bought on August 6th. That was the first book that I purchased. Actually, it wasn't the first. It wasn't the first Gma. It was the second Gma that I purchased, and it was on August 6th from eBay.
Okay. And I
And
believe
that came back. You want me to tell you what it came back as? Like already?
no,
Talk about it?
we'll go into the reveals later. So we
Okay.
bought two
All
from
right.
the same seller. Before that, that was the third Gma that I had actually got. The first two, one I found a seller and I took a gamble. The first Gma I bought was this. I'm serious. Like it was the blurriest photo you could ever find on eBay.
Oh, I
Right?
remember
Like
this.
I basically just took a gamble and I said, okay, this book is either like good and like a diamond in the rough, or I'm overpaying for this book. And that's kind of where it was because the photo was bad. You couldn't really see a whole lot, and the seller didn't have a whole lot of experience. Like I could see the seller had other comic books for sale and similar style photos, like not great photos, but it wasn't like it was a bad seller. It looked to me like it was an older person trying to do their best to sell themselves on eBay. And so I took a risk and I said, based on this seller, it doesn't look like it's a scammer or anything like that. Looks like it's just somebody who's really bad at the internet. So I said, I'm gonna go ahead. I want to give it a go on this book. Okay, so I got that one, and then I found another one just random online. I was not content with the one book. I had to get a second one that was less of a risk in my mind. So I found another good copy that was fairly priced. And so those led up to the one I bought right next to the one you bought. So you got yours August 6th. I probably got mine like August 4th.
Yeah, it was literally within a couple of days.
Yeah. So that said, that was the third one. The fourth one I got on Instagram, and it was another trade. So I traded with somebody on Instagram. I gave him a Eternals number 2, a 9.4 Eternals number 2 slabbed, and a 9.0 white page copy of X-Men 129. Pretty good books. I thought that they were, for me, I thought it was a great trade. I really liked this copy. I thought it was clean and I thought it had a lot of potential. So those were the main 4 that I got. And then again, I got that one that was already graded.
Yeah, but talk the other trade, the one that we both liked was because it had the date stamp on it.
That was the one I got on Instagram. That was the one I was
Yeah.
really, really in love with because it had the date stamp. Exactly.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. All right, so for me, when and again, this is just to highlight how different Jake and I kind of purchase books, speculate, etc. So when we came to it, I was like, the type of books that I usually get, especially if they're bigger books, is I try to get in like when you're trying to buy into a neighborhood, you want to get the cheapest house on the block, right? You don't want to get the biggest, most expensive house on the block. You want to get the cheapest one. So I usually go in towards the bottom tier books, especially on some of these big books. So the first book that I got, and I also look for different routes, different avenues. So I don't go to eBay. I try not to go to eBay. And what I found was, I did some searches and I found a Journey of Mystery Annual number 1 that had been posted in January, February of that year. So remember, we're in July of last year, of 2021. So it had been posted in January, February. on an Instagram page, on a seller's Instagram page. It hadn't been claimed. I was just gonna put claim on there, but I was like, let me see. This person has a website, and it was clean. Like I liked it, but it was a little bit different. It was a Canadian edition. So on these, there's a Canadian edition, and basically on the back or throughout the whole book, there's no ads. So it's different. The whole back is white, and I liked it. I thought that it was different. Canadian price variant as well. So I went on the website, and lo and behold, on the website it was available. So I was like, yes. So I immediately check out, buy the book, and I'm happy. So that happened on July 29th. It was marketed as, or the description said it was a 4.0. So then again, that's not the top. The top is 7, 6, 7 are higher grades and obviously pricier. Then on August 6th, I bought the one from the eBay seller that Jake had purchased from, and that's just because also I was kind of an experiment since he was dealing with Jake and he was able to accept an offer. I wanted to see if he would accept an even lower offer. Lo and behold, he did it. And then on the 15th, I did what I normally would have done, which is I go on eBay or anywhere and find the cheapest one available and just try to buy it. And I told Jake I was kicking myself for this book because this book initially started off at, I think, $35 opening bid, and it didn't sell for like 2 weeks in a row. And I was like, okay, they're gonna put it for 25, and I'm gonna buy it for 25. Like they're gonna keep going down $10 until it sells. But then that second week, somebody started bidding on it, and I was like, oh man, I'm gonna have to bid on it. And I ended up getting it for super cheap, but it was obviously in very, very rough shape. I mean, there was tape all over the cover of this book. I mean, like for no reason. It wasn't, holding a tear. It wasn't holding a piece of the book. Somebody just took a bunch of tape to this book. I mean, there were parts of it that were being held on by tape, like it had some like support for the spine, but on the rest of the cover, there was tape for no reason. So this is the tape for no reason book that I call it. Now, back to the first one that I bought. That one ended up turning into a nightmare because about 2 weeks later, the owner of that website came back and told me that he was so sorry, but that book was sold. It wasn't available, even though it said available on his site. He said he would help me with any other book on his website. He would give me 10% off. So knowing me, getting upset, getting frustrated, I go through his website because, again, I run a website. So I keep up with my inventory. I know what I have to do. It's part of the game, and I do it. And I keep up with everything on it. So I go and look through his website, and I find 2 other books. So I tell him these. I said, hey, I email him. He takes another 2 weeks, takes forever. He says, hey, I'm so sorry. This is embarrassing. I don't have those either. They were mislabeled. They were mislabeled. I don't know what they're doing on the website. I don't know who put them up, whatever. So this is 3 books now that were on his website that, and you'd think after the first one they'd go back and clean them up, but he didn't, whatever. So eventually I found some other books that I had been looking for that Jake and I are specking on that we will tease. That's also a long-term play that will have an episode in itself, but we won't reveal it yet. But luckily he did have those books. He had 3 of them. And that GMA turned into 3 books of the next spec, but I lost that GMA. I didn't get my 4.0 Canadian edition, which I really wanted. So there goes one down. One of my books down.
All right. So now we've got all the cards on the table. All the books are out there. So at this point, we had gotten them all, and we were sending them to Taco. All except for one, right?
That's correct. All except for the taped up one, because I wanted to create a little bit of CPR on it and take the tape off myself.
So yeah, you kept Tapey McTaperson, and we sent the rest of the books to Taco. So let's come back to Tapey, but we will let's move over to Taco though, because the story continues to develop layers. Now, Taco, you received the books mostly like separately, but kind of simultaneously. It was like mine, and then it was Jesus's. Right?
Yeah, I got yours a couple weeks before Jesus's, and
yep. And so
started working on them.
So with the books that I sent you, I think one of the first things you said was, I hate square bound books.
Yes. Yes.
Why is that?
They are so much harder to work on than regular books. You have to be if you press too hard, you could flatten the square bound. If you use too much heat, you can melt the glue and cause even more damage to the pages. If they are already damaged, they're really hard to fix, to improve. It's almost impossible to reconstruct a square bound book. I don't know. I just don't like them. That's all there is to it. And I think after those GMAs, I don't think I ever want to work on one again. But I will though.
Understandable. So, and it probably didn't help that the GMAs we sent you, all of them were low grades. And here's the thing that I want to point out to everybody listening. Had there been better grade books available on eBay or online, like I can tell you right now, I was already going nuts. I would have gotten one. Like I was looking for the best grade books I could find. I genuinely believe this book is just really impossible to get in super high grades. I know that there's obviously exceptions, but it's just a really hard book. So we sent Taco some rough copies.
Yeah, I was looking on eBay just now, and there's a ton of copies, but they're all rough, like you said. They're all pretty banged up.
Yep, and the like notoriously now, like that the front cover it rips every time. Mm-hmm. You go and try to find a copy of this book that doesn't have tape on it, or it doesn't have where the front or the back cover is ripped because of that square bound. So
yeah.
And I think they somehow improved the square bound books going into the Bronze Age, but this is 1964,
65.
So that said, I think this was probably kind of an earlier venture maybe for Marvel into the square bound. So they definitely had some trouble with it. So that said, Taco, you're pressing the books, you're pressing the mine at this point, basically.
Yeah.
And let's hear what happened. There's something took place, right?
Do we want to talk about my visitor? Is that what you want to hear?
I think we should. I think we need to. I think the listeners need to hear about the visitor.
Right. Well, I live in Central Florida. My neighborhood is surrounded by protected lands. And my pressing and cleaning is all done in my garage. I have my little station set out there. And, in Florida, some days are hotter than others. So I like to open the garage door. And here I am working on your GMAs. And I start hearing little pitter patter, outside the garage, like little shuffling of feet. I didn't think anything of it. A couple minutes later, I look up and there's a black bear in my garage, probably about 6 feet away, just staring at me. And
staring at you or staring at my GMAs?
I don't think he cared about the GMAs, honestly.
Are you sure? I feel like the bear was going after the books, right? He was trying to eat the books.
I just don't think bears care about comic books.
Well, I beg to differ, man. I think that comic book is a unique one that really wanted to read a GMA.
I don't know.
And wouldn't you say one of your, and I don't want to give away one of your trade secrets, but you slather the books in honey when you press them, right?
I do. Yeah.
And so, Winnie the Pooh is coming down into your garage 6 feet from you.
It's a picnic basket.
Yeah. Winnie the Pooh calls in Yogi, and so you've got now two bears in your garage.
Yeah. Exactly.
6 feet from you, right? So, in all seriousness, you had a bear about 6 foot because you were literally texting me. And you were like, "There's a bear in my garage." I was like, "Save the books! Save the books!"
No, he was kind of hiding behind the garbage can. He would peek around and look at me, look at the garbage can, and then he just grabbed a garbage bag and left. Went to the side of the house with it. And I got a flashlight and I walked around the side of the house, and he was just sitting in between my house and my neighbor's house, just digging through the garbage bag. Yeah. And I'll tell you, it's really creepy at night when you shine a flashlight in the darkness and you see two glowing eyes staring back at you. I do not recommend that for anybody. Yeah, I do not recommend that for anybody. But it was fun.
Yeah.
strange enough, 2 weeks later, I was working on Jesus's books, and my daughter was in the garage with me, and I think it might have been the exact same bear came back again.
I'm telling you, it's the Jima honey.
My daughter screamed. She literally screamed, and I looked up, and he's just sitting there, staring at us.
I think you need some like bear spray.
Well, you saw the article I sent you, right?
Yeah.
Like within the last 2 weeks, there's been 2 news articles now of people getting attacked by black bears in Central Florida. So,
all looking for Jimas.
I think the power. The power of the Jima, man. You're not supposed to have that many accumulated at one time in one spot.
It's too strong of
they can smell it. It attracts the bears, you know.
And once they get that taste in their mouth for the Jima,
it's game over. It's game over, man.
Regular garbage just does not.
Won't do it. It won't do it, man.
Bears can smell the Jimastration, right? Is that
is that a word?
Oh man,
this took a dark turn.
So so the bear encounter was obviously the highlight of your pressing of the Jimas. That said, how can you give me any more details? Like, how long would you say to do the books, and overall, like your pressing process?
Well, the first thing I do is I clean them, which could take a half hour to an hour or more a book. Just cleaning it, getting the dirt off of it, getting any not really dirt, but just kind of it almost looks like pencil, or you just take an eraser and you kind of just erase it off the book. It's just dirt that's really embedded into the paper. So you just clean it, you get that off. Use some Abserine to get rid of any oils or that kind of stuff. And once that's done, with those, I did humidity. So then I would put it in humidity for about 12 hours. And the next morning I would take it out of the humidity and then press it for 15 minutes.
And what does the humidity do?
It loosens up the pages, the fibers in the paper, so that when you press them, they will stay flat better. It just loosens up the fibers so that when you apply the heat to it, it binds better, and it just fixes it makes the creases when you press them out, it makes it last longer, and it makes it look better.
So pressing for 15 minutes, I mean, I've heard people where they're like, oh, they press for 24 hours or something like that.
Well, you run it in the press for 15 minutes, and then you leave it, you turn the press off, and then you leave it sit there for 12 to 24 hours.
I see. So the heat's not always being applied, but the press
is cold press after that. Yeah. Once you turn the heat off, it's a cold press. You just let it sit in there between the plates with the pressure still. And then as it dries, it
I see.
So I'll do that for 12, 24 hours. And then while that one is in the cold press, I'll be working on the second book, and I'll put that in the humidity, so that when that one is done in the humidity tank, I can then take the one out of the press, put that one in the press. And, it's just a process. You just kind of like a conveyor belt of pressing and humidity and heating. I have 2 presses, so I was able to do 2 at a time.
Which is nice. Great.
Yeah.
And so with the process, how long did it take you to perfect it?
I don't know. Probably, I've been pressing for almost 2 years now. So just something you practice and over time. Yeah.
Nice. And I mean, you're still right. Like, you're still getting better. You're still getting more.
The thing with that is you really never stop learning. It's every book is different. Every book is a learning experience, especially those square bound books.
Yeah. So back to the Jimas, I guess in the end, like, what was your, like, sending them off, we send them to you, and then you're the one who sends them to CGC.
Yep.
And so in that case, how did you feel about the Jimas going out?
Pretty good.
Did you feel like you improved them? Like, you thought that?
Oh, yeah. They definitely looked cleaner. The covers definitely looked flatter and better and shinier. Some of the square bounds I was able to get looking a little bit better, but with that, like I said, there's really not much you can do once it's already pretty damaged. But yeah, the books definitely looked better, definitely cleaner, whiter. Okay,
so we get through the grading, or that process. The grading takes months. I don't know. I can't. Yeah, it took a while.
However long they want to take.
I would say that it was probably the longest part of this process. And then what was it? December? Did we get the Jimas back in December?
Oh, when you got them back. Yeah.
Yeah. I think we got him. I think you got him back in December. I got him back like the first week of January.
That's right. So we get all the grades back, and we'll go ahead and do kind of the reveal on how that works. But just in general, that process, part of what took us so long to get to this point was really just, getting it to Taco, doing the pressing, fighting bears.
It was definitely a long process. Yeah.
Yeah, and then then CGC. So we get the grades, right? And well, did we finish the tape story, Tapey McTaperson?
No, we didn't finish Tapey.
Let's before we get to the grades, give us a quick Tapey McTaperson story.
All right, so I had seen on YouTube how to take off tape from books, and I tried it with some of my old 1970s weird war tales that I have stickers on them, and it worked. So I said, okay, I'm gonna try it on this Thor. I'm gonna take the tape off, and then I'm gonna reattach the cover with some archival tape, because for some reason I really want a conserved grade, right? Like, I don't know why I want to get a conserved grade versus a restored grade. And the archival tape on the spine, I think, gets a conserved grade unless it's super low.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was able to take the tape off of the front of the cover, which again, I have pictures, I have video of it. And I was doing great with it. And then I got to the spine, and when I started taking it off the spine, it was working. But I was telling Jake, man, the way whoever put this tape on this spine, man, if I knew who they were, I'd just like to do some bad things, because it felt like they were weaving with tape. Like, one was under another one, on top of another one, below another one, wrapped in another one. And it just made it so difficult, because you have to put this liquid on it, and it has to get in there to kind of dissolve some of that glue. And it just made it real difficult. And what's worse is, once the tape was off, the part of the spine basically disintegrated. Like, it basically disintegrated. Like, it was just in crumbles. And then when I thought I was done, I laid it, I think I put it down, and I put it face down somewhere, and stuff started sticking to it. So now I have it in between two plates, what are they called? Backboards on the shiny side. Hopefully that it doesn't stick, but I feel like it's sticking.
The glossy, yeah.
Yeah. So now this is gone from a legitimate book to now a 0.5, no matter what I do to it. So that's why I ended up with 1.5, because this book, no matter what happens to it, is going to be a 0.5 if it ever gets graded, which I am now thinking I'm going to get graded, and it can be something we do with it. But that's Tapey McTaperson for you guys.
Is it still sticky?
I believe it's still sticky, potentially.
Well, you said it earlier, but you haven't looked at that book basically since.
No, since I saw the spine deteriorating, my heart broke. I was like, oh man, like I was hoping for a 1.0, 1.5.
Are we calling that the tapening? You haven't looked at the book since the tapening.
I haven't looked at it since the tapening, since the untapening.
Yeah, or the attempted.
You guys want me to open it right now and try to mess with it? Don't want me to do that?
Be careful. Jeez.
Yeah, it's stuck to it. Look.
Yep.
So this is the 0.5. This is the Tapey McTaperson variant copy of Journey into Mystery Annual number 1. Yep. All right. Well, thanks for sharing that that horrifyingly ungodly, ugly book.
You never know. Once Henry Cavill is announced as Hercules, that might jump.
I know, right?
0.5 might be a $5,000 book one day.
There you go.
Oh, so there are weirder things have happened. So
coming your way, Taco.
Okay.
All right, so let's talk about the rest of the books. I have more books, so I'll probably lead the charge here. I ended up the mystery book, the Take a Shot in the Dark book that I got on eBay, which I'm not suggesting like I paid it a crazy amount of money for this book, but it was kind of a blind purchase. So I took a risk, and I would probably say it paid off in a sense. So the book came back and it was a 2.5 off-white copy. And where I would say that it was a win, right? Like I was obviously hoping that it would come in much higher than a 2.5, but where that book came in, I was able to confidently say this book needs to be in our giveaway, right? Like with how much we've talked about Jima and we were trying to decide what to do for the giant size episode, it was just kind of a no-brainer. I was like, oh shoot, I've got this 2.5, like, and I got it for, it was still cheap. So it wasn't like I, threw the bank at it. So that said, it actually worked out pretty well for everybody involved, including the winner. So yay.
Yeah. I thought that was great. It worked out.
And then the other books that I got came back. I have a 4.0. I have a 4.5 and then a 5.0 white pages. So the 4.0s or the 4.0 and the 4.5 were off white to white, I believe. I think one might just be off white. However, the one I traded for on Instagram, the one with the epic date stamp, came back 5.0 white pages. So now I'm sitting there like, dang, I really like that 5.0 white page copy. Now I already got a 7.0 white pages, but it doesn't have a date stamp. Mm-hmm. And I'm kind of almost leaning towards that date stamp. Like I may want to keep that one because I just like this is just the PC, right? Like this is just something that I just want to have a copy of the book. And maybe I'll go back and reconsider selling that 7.0. I haven't made any final decision yet, but those are the grades I'm kind of working with. I was actually really happy with how all the grading turned out. I thought that the books were pressed and cleaned and we maximized what their possibilities were. And yeah, that 5.0, like even in this, like it's sharp. It is a really sharp, clean copy of that book. So I'm happy with how they turned out.
Yeah, I just think it goes to show as well how difficult it is to get above mid grade in this book.
Oh, very much so. We were trying actively.
We were trying, yeah. And when you line them all up, right? Like, so I'll say what mine is. Mine came back a 3.5. This is the one I got off of eBay 2 days after Jake. 3.5 white pager. So it is white pages. It is a 3.5. I'm happy with it. I think I did well with it. It's not the greatest book. It has obviously issues, but it's still a really good looking book. And again, we have the 0.5, right? Then we had a 2.5.
Yep.
A 3.5.
Yep.
4.0, 4.5, 5.0.
We covered the spectrum.
That's what I'm saying. And we couldn't break 6.0, 7.0, 8.0. We couldn't find them. They weren't out there, right? So this book to me is a really difficult book to find above mid grade. And if you do find one, or if you do have one, might be time to grade it. Might be time to send it into Spectales. I don't know. I just want to put that out there as a potential option for you.
Oh yeah. That's just send it to us. Just send us all of them. We'll take them.
Okay.
But not at the same time. We do not want to track bears.
Yes.
So please,
yes,
one at a time.
One about every 2 months.
Yeah.
That would be ideal, wouldn't it? Every 2 months. All right. Well, this took a little bit longer than I thought, but I had a lot of fun going through it and kind of reliving that story. And obviously, Taco, thanks for sharing your bear part, because I just don't think we would have been able to do it justice. And also breaking down a little bit about how you do go about what you're doing with the books. Because honestly, I was just curious because I really didn't know what you were doing.
And how much you love Squarebound.
Exactly. So then I guess let's kind of roll into the final segment and see if we can wrap this thing up. We've got speculation. And Jesus, because you didn't go the first time around on recent pickups, I'm going to let you go first this time.
All right, man. So this spec is similar to one I did back in September of 2021. So going a little bit back, I think episode 7, I spec'd on New X-Men number 133, the first appearance of Dust. We talked about it. about the diversity aspect of it, and X-Men coming. Real quick shout out to Cheese and Keys, who just did a 60-second review on this book, and it got a 9.8. Really cool book. I really like the cover. So it's similar to that in that vein. So I'm specking on 2 books, Miss Marvel series, 2 different ones. One is number 12 from 2016. It's the first appearance of Red Dagger, Pakistani vigilante. It's a cool cover. And it is rumored that this person or this character has been cast with a pretty interesting actor. And it's the first Pakistani or a Pakistani character in Marvel. So it's a really cool spec for me. I pick this book up all the time. I sell it all the time. I would pick it up right now as well while you can, before this person or this character gets confirmed. The second one is Magnificent Miss Marvel number 13 from 2020. So this is a fairly new one. And it's the first Amulet, which is the first Arab American superhero, or an Arab American superhero with magical powers that helps Miss Marvel out. I would also look for those ratio variants. There's a couple ratio variants out there that are pretty cool, and they look a little bit better than cover A. But if you can just get cover A, I'd be getting cover A as well. So those are the 2 specs that I have for this week.
Very nice. All right, Taco, what do you got?
There's also a good second print of that book.
Which one? The number 12?
No, Thea 13 for Amulet.
Oh, yeah.
Good second print. I just have 2 books. First one is a book that I pick up every time I see it. It's a book from 2016. It's actually a free comic book day book. Civil War II, free comic book day. It's the first appearance of Nadia Pym, which is the new-ish Unstoppable Wasp. That's a good book. They were free comic book day books, so they're hard to find in the wild in good condition. So you just have to keep digging through like dollar boxes. But they sell pretty good on eBay. The other one I have is Avengers Arena number 1, that came out in 2012. It's the first appearance of Colin Bloodstone, which is the younger brother of Elsa Bloodstone. Okay. And she's pretty hot right now.
Yep.
It also has the first appearance of Death Locket, Kid Britain, who he died. He was an alternate universe Captain Britain. He died in that series, though. But it's a lot of first appearances. It was a great series. Avengers Arena, they get pulled to Murder World pretty much by Arcade. It was a really fun series. And then that Civil War II with Nadia Pym.
Nice. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and throw out mine, and mine's a little bit different. It's not really modern, but there's been more heat. There has been a little bit more clamoring, or they're not official Marvel confirmation, but people are getting hotter and hotter on Namor. And they're saying that the Submariner, unofficially, officially, Namor is going to be in Black Panther 2. And I guess the whisper, I know they talked about casting this last summer, but it was never confirmed. Nothing was ever official, but they keep moving in that direction. And then where there's smoke, there's fire. And I think that it's really coming up. So first of all, go look for Submariner books. There are a lot of them out there. I mean, you can certainly look at the Silver Age and go with, the first appearance and things like that. Those are expensive, but there are a lot of Submariner keys in the Submariner run that are super underappreciated, undervalued. The entire Submariner run is undervalued. Everybody just looks at that number 1, the Speedo cover, which is a good one to go out and get, but there are so many other good books within that run. So I still highly recommend going and looking for some of those. I think it's it's a valuable character that is not simply going to be a villain in the MCU. They're going to utilize the full character. That said, when it comes to villains and when it comes to rumors, there have been rumors for Black Panther 2 as well for Atuma. He's an Atlantean and is a foil to Namor. And the first appearance is Fantastic Four 33. This book is warming up as well. There are some rumors, so the book is continuing to warm up. But I would say that for this book, it has some growth still left in it. and I would look for some ancillary books to go along, with that character. You could go to the character's second appearance, which is even more affordable, which is Tales to Astonish 64. That's the second appearance of Atuma. And again, another book that is cheap, easy to get, and might be another one worth stashing. So, because if the character is confirmed, if they officially announce, I think that is a character well worth investment already. It's a great character. Silver Age books have rockets strapped to their back. And if you can find some value that other people haven't seen yet in the Silver Age, I think it's a good place to go.
Definitely.
Yep.
Same with X-Men, Fantastic Four, Submariner. Buy all those old keys.
Yeah, unfortunately, they're all getting very, very, very expensive. So it's hard to call them. They're not under the radar anymore. They're just expensive.
Definitely not.
But that is going to do it for this episode of Spec Tales. To all you out there who listened in, thank you so much. We really, really appreciate everybody out there listening. We get a lot of comments. We get a lot of messages on social media, people reaching out. It really is a lot of fun. We are doing this because we enjoy talking about comic books, but we also enjoy engaging with the community. That was a big reason why we started this show. Thank you very much. If you like what you're listening to, go over to Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts and give us a quick review. It helps us out a lot, and we would really, really appreciate it. That said, that's all I got. Thanks, everybody. We're going to have another show next week where I believe we are going to do another listener Grail Tale. So it's a big one. It's a pretty big deal. I'm pretty excited about it. I know Jesus is as well. And all we can say right now is that it may or may not involve like 30 grand worth of books. So it's a big deal. Anyway, tune in next week for that. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.